Hi everybody, thank you for joining us tonight and welcome to this webinar, Through the Ups and Downs, in which we are absolutely delighted to have Nicci, Fletcher and Brandi Lytle as guest speakers. Now they are actually joining us from very far and wide tonight. Welcome Nicci, you're dialing in from France, aren't you?
That's correct, Heather. Thank you very much for inviting us to do this. And I'm in Bordeaux, well, about an hour inland from Bordeaux in southwest France tonight.
Lovely, thank you for joining us. And welcome Brandi. Do you want to let everyone know where you are tonight?
Yeah, I'm in South Carolina in the United States.
Welcome, thank you for coming. So you may have seen Nicci on our MTL webinar series before when she talked about her childless journey and her Childless Not by Choice magazine and how her writing has actually helped her cope with her childless status. Brandi writes the Not So Mommy website. And tonight they are going to share how together as friends they have supported each other through the ups and the more intense downs that childlessness can bring. Now, before we talk about how to ask questions tonight, I would like to let you know that we are going to talk about some raw grief, which some of you may find very poignant and very upsetting. So it is important that before we begin to reassure you that Brandi really wants to talk about this tonight, and she is aware that she may well up or seem upset, as anyone may do when they're talking about somebody very close to their heart. But so she may just disappear for a moment while she composes herself, but she really wants me to let you know that she believes that the message she's sharing should be more openly discussed. So I just wanted to warn you about that tonight. And Brandi, we think you are very, very brave for coming on and talking about grief, which is obviously still quite raw to you. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, now we will begin this webinar tonight with their presentation, and then we'll move on to our short Q&A session. Now, any questions that you may have can be typed in as we're going along. We will visit them after the presentation's finished. So if you have a question that you want to ask, all you have to do is hover your cursor down at the toolbar at the bottom. If you can't see a toolbar, just hover your cursor down there and it should appear. Go into Q&A and ask the questions anonymously, please. There should be an anonymous function that you can select. And the reason that we ask you to do this is because this session is recorded and we don't want to disclose any personal information. The recording will be on our website after, and it will be on YouTube. Okay? All that remains for me to do is to hand you over to Nicci and Brandi. I'm going to disappear and let them tell you how they support each other through the ups and downs.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Heather. Before we get started, Nicci and I just wanted to briefly share our childless not by choice journeys. My husband and I tried to have a baby for 10 years. We had 7 failed intrauterine inseminations, and we also checked into all different kinds of adoption, but nothing ever felt quite right for both of us. So at the end of 2013, my husband asked if we could stop trying and just accept our lives the way that they were. And although that was quite devastating at the time, my husband and my marriage are very important to me, and so I decided to try to just accept the way life was. And in 2014, that is when I began the journey of trying to accept being childless not by choice. So Nicci, would you give us a brief overview of your CNBC story, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Brandi. Now, despite a family history of endometriosis, we didn't actually talk about it. So it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I was diagnosed, because up until that point, I had no tangible symptoms. We had one cycle of failed IVF, which we self-funded, and that was a complete disaster, unfortunately. No eggs were fertilized, although quite a few had been harvested. And at that time, we were told that our only option was to do IVF using egg donation. And whilst this was a serious consideration for us, it wasn't possible at that time. So basically, we crawled back home and went and hid under a stone for 8 years. And we didn't realise that we were grieving. We just thought our symptoms were of general stress or depression, nothing sort of associated with our childless state. And I think we finally realised that it was related to our situation about 4.5, 5 years ago. And at that point, we realised we needed to grieve. It's been a bumpy ride since then, with lots of ups and downs. And part of my healing has been due to helping others to heal as well. You know, I'm a qualified life coach and trainer, and I think once a life coach, always a life coach. Now, for me, a major breakthrough happened last of May, June time, when I came up with something called CanBase. I hated using the word childless because it focuses so much on what we don't have, and I wanted to find an alternative which was much more positive. And CanBase, which is spelled C-A-N-B-A-C-E, stands for Creating a New, Beautiful and Courageous Existence. And it's more than simply a word, it's sort of a mindset, it's a mantra, it's a lifestyle. Now, Brandi, I know that you have been struggling since probably last September. So can you share a little bit more about what's been going on with you, please?
Yes. In last September, on September the 9th, my granddad passed away. He had been struggling with Alzheimer's, and he was in his mid-80s. And so, to be quite honest, it was a bit of a relief for our entire family that he no longer had to struggle being in a body that wasn't working anymore. While I was getting used to the fact that my granddad had passed away, exactly 1 week later, on September the 16th, my best friend Jennifer passed away. I call Jennifer a friend, but she really is more like family. We met when I was about 4 years old, and we grew up across the street from one another. So I do not remember a time in my life when Jennifer was not there. She was there through all of the good times as well as the bad times, and she was an integral part of our infertility journey, in that I could always talk to her about what was going on. And then she was there when I started accepting childlessness. She had been diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer at age 39, and she battled very courageously for 9 months, but ultimately she did pass away in September. After she passed away, I started making some changes with my blog, knowing that I was going to need a bit of time. So I went down to posting once a week and posting on social media once a week. That allowed me to also be able to help my husband build his business, and that has been a nice distraction over the past few months. Not that I want to ignore the grief, however, it is nice to not simply dwell on it and to have other things to keep my mind occupied. Now, I know you've been struggling as well, Nicci. What's been going on with you?
Yeah, mine has been a very different sort of situation. I thought that most of my healing had been done, as I was feeling far better than I had done in years. My self-confidence, sense of purpose, etc., was at an all-time high. I was running the magazine, hosting the We Are Worthy Summit, had come up with CanBase, etc. And I was feeling that I was making a real difference to a community that was something which had helped me so much, so I was giving back to it. Unfortunately, over the last year, I received quite a bit of negativity about the work I was doing. And I want to give you 2 examples of this. Despite telling all and sundry that his in loco parentis status meant that my brother feels that he has to take extra special care of me, you know, during all the time when I've posted on Facebook, he's never liked, shared, commented on a single thing which is CNBC related, even though he comments on other things. He hasn't even sent me a private message to say, what a wonderful job I'm doing or anything like that. And for somebody who is so close to me and knows me so well, that hurts. And it's also made me question my purpose in life. If he doesn't appreciate it, who will, almost? And then in addition to that, somebody that I've known for probably about 20 years has also criticised my work. When she heard about the magazine and Canbase, she said, is there really a need for anything like that? Sort of sneering down her nose. Having children isn't ... And I will leave you to fill in the gaps of the insensitive comment that she made. Now, there have been a few other instances as well where people have attacked my personality, my core values and things. However, time is limited, so I'm not going to cover any of those. But what I will have to say is that the veracity of some of the negativity has floored me. And all of these things combined basically caused a crisis of confidence in me, which led to physical and emotional burnout, because my solution was to work even harder to prove to myself that the negativity was unfounded. So our current situations are very different. Yours is grief-based, mine is more of a crisis of confidence and burnout. So I think it would be beneficial if we had a look at your current grief that you're going through and see whether or not it's similar to the childless grief that you experienced.
I do think there are some similarities, and of course there are some differences. What I am learning is that as I go through this grief, that I really do have to allow myself to grieve, and that I have to allow myself to feel all of these feelings, and then I have to allow myself to cry when I need to do that as well. I was surprised to learn that many people, when they're struggling through infertility, and that many childless do not talk about their grief. Because when I was going through my infertility struggle, I did talk. I talked to fellow teachers. My family knew. Like I said, Jennifer knew. My friends knew. Talking was one of the things that kept me going and that allowed me to be able to work through all of the emotions. And luckily, I was able to talk to my husband as well. I think one of the most difficult things in thinking about dealing with triggers that will happen in the future, as I know they will, is that I no longer have Jennifer to turn to. She was an incredible person who never said the wrong thing. It was amazing that she would listen and be so understanding, and not once made me feel as if I was less than. And I know that in the future, things will happen. Things have already happened that I want to talk to her about, and she's not there. And so what I'm learning is to lean on other people. Nicci, for example, who was wonderful when Jennifer passed away and wrote a poem for me and asked people to send purple hearts. And we'll talk a little bit more about why purple is so important. And so I'm finding people that I feel safe with, and I'm talking to them so that, again, I can work through this grief and also find people that I can turn to, because I know that talking and getting my feelings out is important for my healing. Now, many people do have a crisis of confidence, and they do feel emotional burnout when they're going through their CNBC situation. So Nicci's current trigger has been a little bit different, but are you using the same, or are you using different techniques to work through your current wobbles, Nicci?
Yeah, before I talk about that, well done. You did well. Yes, because it has been different, I did turn to different strategies. I went back to the root causes, because different root causes need different solutions. You know, I basically put on my life coaching and my business analysis hat again, and I returned to those sorts of roots. So I did the Wheel of Life. I conducted most and SWOT analysis. I reassessed my core values. I looked at the different glass balls that I was juggling to work out which were the most important ones and which I could put to one side for a while. Now, unfortunately, I don't have time to explain those techniques. However, I have blogged about using all of the techniques, and I'm going to be publishing a new blog as a follow-up to this webinar, so in about a week's time. And when I do that, I will make sure that I list all of the techniques I've done, and there will be links to the original blogs that I wrote, so that if people either watching this live or the recording of it are interested, they can go and find out a bit more. So I have done different things, and I have done some of the same things as well. You know, I have used the Can-based mantra every day, and that does help me. I use deep breathing techniques, and also I've used a technique that I'm going to be sharing a little bit later on as well. So, Brandi, if you're ready, if you're not, don't worry about it. But as part of your childless grief, I know that you've been redefining mumhood yourself. So if you are able to talk about it, are you using that same redefining technique to help you as you grieve losing Jennifer?
Yes, most definitely. I mentioned when I was talking just a little bit earlier about purple. I'm actually wearing purple and pink today. The purple is for Jennifer, and the pink is because I'm a pink girl. Whenever I see purple, I think about Jennifer. People even wore purple to her memorial service. That's how important that color was in representing her. Well, this December, when I went back home to Oklahoma, you know, it should have been 4 of us. There was me, Jennifer, her twin, and another girl, and we all grew up together on the same street. And so it wouldn't be the 4 of us this December, it would be the 3 of us. A friend of mine, she had wanted us to take photos, all of us wearing different colored stocking caps. And we knew, of course, Jennifer would have worn a purple stocking cap, but unfortunately, we never got a chance to take those pictures together. So we decided that we were going to go ahead and buy the stocking caps. I was wearing pink. We had purple for Jennifer and then 2 different colors for my friends. And we went to my mother-in-law's chapel where we had taken our 35-year photos, and we took the pictures. There were Christmas trees up, so we put the purple hat on top of the trees and took photos. Jennifer loved Dr. Pepper, so we all drank Dr. Pepper and with our hats on, and had her sitting next to one, purple straw included. And we had an angel that my mom brought and put the purple hat on the angel and took photos. And it was a really, really wonderful time. There were a few tears, of course, but for the most part, it was a lovely afternoon. I can remember in one photo in particular, her twin was laughing so hard, and to see her with such joy was really healing. So we took what could have been a really, really sad moment, and we turned it into something that brings back nice memories. I did the same thing when I was struggling through my childlessness and accepting that. When Dane and I were going through infertility, we bought this adorable outfit. One of my friends called it the Audrey Hepburn outfit. It was winter white with a little bit of animal print. It was just so cute. Well, I decided that outfit shouldn't just hang in the closet, and so we let my youngest niece wear it. She was born just a few days after I had my endometriosis surgery, and then other friends and families' kids wore the outfit as well. Jennifer was a little bit bummed. I don't often talk about the fact that she has a son, but she does. He just turned 8 last week. She was a little bummed because it was a girl's outfit that he wouldn't get to wear it. So I put the hat on him and we took a photo. And as time went on, that outfit, it kind of became hard for me to see it. So I reread the blog that I wrote about it, and I had forgotten that I actually asked my mom to keep it for me for about 5 years so that I wouldn't run into it around the house. But after I started my blog, I asked her to mail it back to me. And I left it in the closet for a little while, and then I pulled it out, and I put that outfit on Victoria, which is a doll that my Grammy gave me when I was 2 years old. And she sits in the snug, and I see her every day. And so I look at that outfit and I realize that I have made it through one type of grief. And that outfit no longer causes me pain, but it causes me joy in knowing that kids have worn it, including Jennifer's son, and that there were some lovely moments with it. And so if I can make it through that grief, I know that I can make it through this grief if I just continue to find those ways to redefine moments and try to find some bright sides if that's possible. Now, Nicci, you've talked about where you've looked for support during your struggle. Are there any other specific resources that you've been using to help you?
Yes, there are. I've got 2 books that I want to share with people. The first one is Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson. Unfortunately, somebody moved my book and I can't find it, so this is a mock-up. However, it's about the same size as the proper book, and it is very small. Don't let that misguide you or lead you to think that it's not a very good book, because it packs a very powerful punch, and it's all about how we deal with change, and change is something that everybody has to deal with no matter what their situation is. And dealing with change, particularly when you're starting to move forward in your sort of grief process, can be very scary. So I really do recommend that book. The other book is this one, which is Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. I'm not quite sure how you pronounce that. And this book is one which looks at failure. And I know that when I was first going through that healing process, or at least acknowledging my experience and my grief, I did feel a failure in so many different ways. And Black Box Thinking looks at the relationship that we have with failure, and it looks at what we can learn about failure from primarily the aviation industry, which is why it's called Black Box Thinking, but also sort of other industries as well. And it's a very, very useful book, I found. As well as those books, I've also sought support in different places. Now, because this wasn't a CNBC-related situation I was going through, I didn't go into the CNBC support groups with this, because basically to explain what was going on, I would need to explain what was happening with sort of business, crisis and confidence, and all of those sorts of things, which weren't relevant or appropriate in a CNBC group. So what I did instead, I realised that this was a crisis about Nicci the entrepreneur, and I went to business support groups instead on Facebook, and I have found those invaluable. And the other thing is that I went back to all of my coaching and training analysis, business analysis techniques that I've gathered over the years, and training manuals that I haven't read for probably over a decade have all been dusted off and trolled through. And I found that incredibly useful. I'll be talking about that in a little bit more detail later on. So I guess what we're saying is that even though we have found resources to help and support us, there still remains that sort of question of why, which causes issues. How have you managed to find purpose through your pain, Brandi? Or do you even think that it's possible to find purpose in the grief?
I think it depends on where you're at in your grief. Since I have accepted infertility and accepted that I am childless not by choice, I personally have been able to find a purpose. I truly believe that I am supposed to be an advocate for this community and speak about this journey. I really believe that Dane and I were supposed to adopt Maddie, and that I am supposed to be her dog mom and give her the best possible life. I believe that we were supposed to be Bruno's host parents, and that we were supposed to have this relationship that continues with her, that we were supposed to have these in really great relationships with our nieces and nephews, and with just the nieces and nephews that I claim. So yes, as far as my childlessness is concerned, I have found purpose. However, when you're in the midst of your grief, it can be very difficult to find purpose for what you're going through. And so as I'm in the midst of my grief with Jennifer, it's been harder to figure out why this happened. When we were struggling with infertility, I prayed. I said, God, please bless our family with a baby. And my sister-in-law got pregnant with our middle niece. Now, I can kind of grin about that now, but at the time, it was quite irritating. And I thought, how rude. You knew that I meant that I wanted Dane and I to get pregnant and have a child of our own. So when Jennifer got sick, I was not going to make that mistake again. And I prayed very specifically. And I asked God if he would please heal her on this earth. And I asked him to give us at least 40 more years together. And God said no. And I don't know why. But what I do know is that the question why is tormenting. And I will never know why. There is no possible way that I can understand why she would get sick with breast cancer at 39 and pass away at 40. And if I try to figure out why, I will get stuck. And I know myself. It is easy for me to get stuck in the negative. That may sound strange since I talk so much about finding the bright sides and the positive and look at a different perspective on Not So Mommy, but that is how I made it through my childlessness, because I was in the pit of despair and I had to change my perspective or I was never going to climb out. And I'm trying very hard not to get stuck in that pit again while I grieve Jennifer's passing. And so I am trying not to allow myself to get bogged down with the why or that this is unfair. It happens every now and then, but I try to change my perspective if at all possible. Is there a purpose? I don't know. I do know that one small bright side is that I have reconnected with Jennifer's twin. We have always been friends, but we have really started leaning on each other. We talk at least once a week, and that deep friendship that we had is coming back. And I'm grateful for that. So while I am very sad over losing my friend, I do know that life will continue on. And so I have to try to find a way to move forward and find some joy, despite the fact that this is most definitely not what I wanted. We'll have to do more redefining and we have to find another plan B. Now, so I'm somewhat beginning to find my balance again. I know you're starting to find your balance as well, Nicci. So what are the similarities and differences between finding your balance now versus your childless grief?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Brandi. And before I say that, I just wish I was closer to give you a real hug in person rather than the virtual one I've been sending you for the last few minutes.
Thank you.
My pleasure, my friend. Yeah, I have moved forward in a different way. When I was dealing with my CNBC grief, my wish was to reconnect with the person I was before all of this happened. before I discovered I was infertile. And due to the coaching work that I've done on myself over the last 6 months, I realised that that actually is no longer my aim. I think I've changed too much, and I don't want to reconnect with my former self. I want to reinvent myself into somebody new. Whilst I've been doing that, I've been picking my battles carefully, if you like. I've decided not to challenge my brother over his attitude because, to be honest, I don't think it's going to change. So what's the point of causing even more of a problem between us? The other situation with the woman with the insensitive comments, I did decide to do something about. And when I saw her recently, she started to say, yet again, children are not all they are. And I went, stop. Do not say another word because it is not appropriate. She looked a tiny bit shocked at me because that's not the person I usually am. She then said, oh, perhaps it's best not if I don't say anything more. She then gulped down her wine and then looked at her empty glass and said that she was off to find a refill. And do you know what? After 8 years of insensitive comments from this woman, with her criticising me as a person, me as a friend, and about my writing, she no longer has the power to do that over me. I don't care what she thinks or says anymore. And I also know that any other negativity that comes my way now, I'm going to be able to deal with that because they no longer have power over me anymore. And one of the things I've realised is that it is so easy to compartmentalise our lives. There's our lives over here, which are our sort of the infertility, the childless, the CAN-based life, and there's the rest of our life and the connections we have with the outside world, if you like. And sometimes we forget that there's a crossover between the two. And it's not as clear-cut as that always. Sometimes they link like this, they overlap a bit. And we need to remember that support is support, no matter where it comes from. Now, personally, I feel that I am now stronger as a result of who I am. I'm more aware of my core values. I'm more authentic in the work that I am doing. And the new directions that CAN-based life or CAN-based is taking me in are really exciting. And the whole experience has shown me firsthand that coaching can really help. And from now on, I'm not only going to nurture my inner writer, which I've been doing for a few years, I'm also going to nurture my inner coach as well. So ultimately, I am reinventing myself as a fabulous, flamboyant flamingo who wears purple and pink. And I'm loving every minute of it. So I hope that what Brandi and I have been saying illustrates why it's so important to have some practical tools and techniques that we can use when difficult situations arise. And I want to go through a technique with you now. And this was something that I actually taught Brandi about 6 months ago, I think. We'll talk to her a little bit later and she'll give she'll share her experiences with us. And what we're going to do is we are going to anchor a positive emotion to an action. Excuse me for a moment, please. So we're going to think about a time when you are feeling particularly calm and relaxed. You're going to need to probably think about an event that occurred that made you calm and relaxed. However, when we're going through the exercise, I'd like you to focus more on the feeling of being calm and relaxed rather than the event itself. We're going to anchor it to an action, and that's going to be quite a subtle action. So we're not going to suddenly become contortionists or anything like that. We're going to push two fingers together. I recommend you don't do this one, the thumb and the index finger, because people sometimes use that as a symbol to say okay. But perhaps your little finger and your thumb, or 2 fingers. You want to do it to an action which is quite discreet, so you could do it perhaps underneath a table. And also, when we do it, we're going to start off with a volume control. Here, the volume setting is down at 1, so we're lightly touching our fingers together rather than really pushing hard. And as we go through the technique, we're going to turn up that volume, that intensity of how calm we feel, so we eventually get to a 10. I'm going to be asking you to close your eyes, and on 2 occasions, I'm going to ask you a question, and I would like you to answer that question out loud, please. Before we start, we're going to just breathe in and out through our nose a couple of times. So I'd like you to close your eyes, and I'd like you to lightly push together your 2 fingers, or a thumb and finger. And I'd like you to remember a time when you are feeling very calm and very relaxed. Once you've connected to the feeling, remember that you need to focus on the feeling and not the event. And at the moment, the volume is probably at a 1 or a 2. I'd like you to intensify that feeling if you can, please. Push down a tiny bit stronger on your fingers and turn up the volume to a 3. And now a 4. Let that feeling of calmness, that feeling of relaxation wash over you. Enjoy feeling calm and relaxed. Turn up the volume again to a 5. Really connect with that feeling of calmness. Make it brighter, make it clearer, make it sharper, even though you are feeling very calm and very relaxed. Turn up the volume again if you can to a 6. Remember, each time the volume gets a bit stronger, you're pushing your fingers together a tiny bit harder. Let the feeling of calmness wash over you. You're feeling really calm and relaxed now. Turn up the volume to a 7. Let the calmness sort of wrap around you like a security blanket, keeping you safe. Open your eyes. What's the name of the book you are currently reading? Close your eyes again and reconnect with the feeling of calmness. You're feeling really calm, really, really relaxed. Push those fingers together just a little tiny bit more as you turn up the volume to an 8. We're going to do one more volume increase now to a 9. You're feeling so calm and so relaxed. Open your eyes. What's the name of the last film that you watched? Close your eyes again. Reconnect with how calm and relaxed you are feeling. Let the feelings of calmness and relaxation wash over you. Feel safe and secure in the knowledge that you are so calm and so relaxed. And we're going to turn up that volume just to the last number, 10. So it really isn't possible for you to feel any more calm or more relaxed than you currently are doing so. And I'd like you to sit with that feeling of calmness and relaxation and how protected you feel by it for a moment. Okay, I'd like you to open your eyes again and you can stop pressing your fingers together. And I hope that none of you fell asleep during that exercise. So how do we use it? Well, what you have done is you have anchored the calmness, the relaxation to the particular combination of fingers that you push together. However, it's not a bottomless well. You need to keep it topped up. So whenever you are feeling calm or relaxed, close your eyes, Breathe in and out a couple of times, push your fingers together and top up that emotion, that feeling of calmness and relaxation. How do you use it? Well, let's think of a scenario. A work colleague of yours has gone on to maternity leave and you find out that they are coming into the office with their newborn baby. And when the time approaches and they arrive, you start to feel anxious about this. You're being triggered by it. What you can do is you push your fingers together, and it's not going to take away all of the emotion. However, what it will do is sort of soften the rawness, if you like, take the intensity out of it, which means that instead of having to rush out to another room, rush to safety of perhaps the toilets, you can do so in a more calm manner. And that's why we use a surreptitious, a discreet action, because you could do that underneath your desk, you could do it behind your back, something like that. And this technique, it might sound a bit strange, however, it really does work. And I explained to you that I taught this technique to Brandi a while ago. And Brandi, could you share a little bit about how you've used it, please?
Yeah. I had mentioned to Nicci that I was feeling anxious about an aerial performance that I was going to be doing several months back. There was this one move where if I didn't get it, I would end up on the floor, and it was a problem because it was going to be difficult for me to get back in the sling, and this was choreographed to music, and I was going to get behind. And so she taught me this technique, and I decided, because I was going to be wrapping my hands around the silks, that I would put my hands together, and I put my middle finger and my thumb together and just kind of close my hand. And it really did help. I did that. I'd feel more confident, and I got the move at my performance. Well, recently I was at a restaurant and I was supposed to be meeting a friend. She's a lovely person. I really enjoy talking with her. But I was starting to get a little bit anxious. She was running a few minutes late, which never happens with her. And I was having to sit there by myself, which I don't particularly like. And by the time she arrived, I was just really nervous and just not feeling great. And I really wanted to enjoy this lunch. And so I remembered what Nicci had taught me. And while she was saying hello and telling me why she was running late and getting settled in, I was able to just take a few deep breaths and put my fingers together. And, I was listening, but I was able to calm down so that I really could enjoy the lunch. And I did it today. While Nicci was teaching it to you all, I was doing the action, which is one of the reasons that I'm calmer now and able to talk easier with all of you. Now, she mentioned that it had to be topped up. I realized the other day when I was doing my yoga that I always end in a seated position, cross-legged, and I put my hands like that on top of my knees. And at the end of yoga, I'm always very relaxed. And so I'm making a conscious effort to really tap into that relaxed feeling and making sure that I top that up so that when I need it, it is available.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Brandi. And I'm so pleased that it has worked for you. Now, I'm conscious that we need to leave a bit of time for questions. So if we could just finish off by quickly sharing your one piece of wisdom that you have learned from all of this. So what would your one big takeaway be?
Well, life is full of challenges. Pain and sadness and grief are going to happen. We cannot get away from them. We can't avoid them. So for me, I've learned that the important thing is to not let these things take over. Like I said, I try to be very careful to not get stuck in that pit of despair. And that means that I have to manage grief. So I have to embrace the emotions, the positive and the not so positive emotions, and work through those. I've been working through that with Jennifer, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to do this today. And talking really helps me. So just make sure to find the support that you need and a safe place where you can talk to others and work through all of those emotions and all of the grief so that you can move forward and find your joy again. So Nicci, what is your one big takeaway that you'd like to share?
Thank you. Mine actually builds on from Brandi, and that is that I don't think we should be scared of triggers and wobbles, because I believe that they can be an indication of actually how far we have come. You know, something that was a major trigger for me a few years ago hardly affects me at all these days. So it is a definite sign of progress and healing. And I also think we need to remember that we are like weebles. We wobble, yet we never fall over. And for those of you who don't know, a weeble is a small toy. It's the size and shape of an egg. It's very heavily weighted down at the bottom. And when you pull it over, it wobbles all over the roundabout, but it never falls over. And I think if we can remember those sorts of things, we can get to a stage where we remember each time that we go through a trigger and reach the other side, that it is proof that we can and we will survive. So, you know, I knew that I would survive this crisis of confidence, etc., because I've survived the last 8 years. Now, I do get fed up with having to survive things. However, each time I do, I know that I'm getting just that little tiny bit closer to a sustainable level of healing, acceptance and balance. And I think that's all we can actually ask for, really. So I'm conscious of the time. I think that's enough of us talking. So thank you very much, Brandi, for taking part with me. And back to you, Heather, now, in case there are any questions.
Hi, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now, very early on in your presentation, there was a message that came through, Brandi, where somebody sent their love and best wishes to you. Because they were really concerned. So I just wanted to share that before I forget to do that. Something that struck me throughout all of it is that living our childless lives, we're not exempt from the everyday struggles that other people have to go through. You would think that we have enough to cope with, but life's not like that, as you know, and we're not exempt. But what came across very much from both of you was that the strength that you've managed to develop because of your childless status and the strength of character almost that it's given you, that you've been able to apply that to other areas and other struggles in your life. And obviously you need to be at a certain stage in your childless journey to be able to do that. And some people might be earlier on in the journey and therefore may find that harder. But it is reassuring to know that if you are struggling with childlessness at the moment, to know that it's going to make you stronger in the long run. And I think that was something that really came across in your presentation tonight. So thank you for that. Another question I want to ask you before I have a look down there, we've got a few more comments down there, is I wanted to say, you talked very much about the purpose of what you're going through, and this is a question for either of you. Do you think it's really important then that we let go of our need to find a purpose for everything that happens? Because many people are childless and it's unexplained childlessness and they never find out why. So do you think that letting go of trying to find that out can actually release them from some of the pain?
Do you want to answer that, Brandi?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I am a person, I really want there to be purpose in things, and I want to understand why things happen. And so I think that I have discovered a purpose for myself with the childlessness in, you know, being an advocate, a dog mom, a host mom. But with Jennifer, for example, I'm not sure I'll ever find a purpose in that. And so in that situation, yes, I believe that if I don't let go of needing those answers, that it will forever cause pain and grief to resurface. So I guess it depends on the individual. If you really feel like, I just don't know why this happened, there's no reason this would happen, it may be that you do just need to let go of trying to find the answers and redirect and refocus your attention so that you can move past that.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to have a look down here at the questions. I know some of them were comments. One of them is, I want to say thank you to both Nicci and Brandi. I was really struggling with being childless not by choice when I first met them. The CAN-based Twitter hour really helped me deal with my feelings and my family situation, and I still take part every week. So that's a lovely comment. Someone else has put that Nicci's technique sounds very similar to EFT, and I'm going to say this wrong, but I think it's Yin Shin Jitsu. Does that sound right, Nicci?
I'm not sure about that one. EFT is slightly different, and what you won't have seen is that whilst Brandi was talking, I was doing very basic EFT like this underneath the desk. Sending her positive vibes like this. And EFT is all about tapping and it's acupressure points. It is about energy, so there are similarities there as well. So it's, there's some similarities, but EFT is a lot more, I would say, versatile and has a lot more usage. This is just a little quick fix that will help you if you can't do EFT, let's say, under a certain set of circumstances. Okay,
lovely. Thank you. Now, there's a question here that, if you don't mind, I'm just going to answer it first and then I'll let you build on it if that's okay. But it says, I realise the importance of sharing, talking. However, friends and family who I've tried sharing with over the years have done far more damage, and I can only think of one positive experience with one person. How do you find people you can really share such intimate details of your I'm assuming it's journey with, grief with? Right, okay, well, here at the More to Life community, if you contact me, if you need somebody to speak to, we have some local contact volunteers who, they're not trained counsellors, but they are trained in listening. We train them at More to Life in just listening, and most of them have experience of childlessness themselves. So they really, really understand. So if there's anybody out there that would really like to speak to somebody, please do drop me an email, heather@fertilitynetwork.org.uk, and just tell me that you'd like to be paired up with a More to Life local contact volunteer, and that's something that I can do for you. We also have our Health Unlocked community as well, where you can go on and you can post details. And the beauty of that is it's obviously sort of 24-hour because it's online, so and other people will come on and join the community and speak to you and share their experiences, etc. as well, and when they're free to do so. And I find that community really works as well. And someone else tonight has spoken about your CAN-based Twitter as well, which really helps. Do you want to build on that at all, Brandi or Nicci?
Yes, I'll build on that if you don't mind, because I'm now hosting it because Brandi is busy on a Tuesday. Yeah, it's a Twitter chat. It happens every Tuesday evening in the UK at 7 p.m, regardless of whether it's daylight saving or not. So around the world, it does change slightly at certain times. And one of the things I would say is that it can be difficult talking to people that you don't know. So you don't have to do everything all at once. Yeah. You could start just by following the Twitter chat without becoming involved. You could read my blog, read Brandi's blog or somebody else's blog, and you start to get a feeling for that person based on what they're writing about and the interaction on Twitter chat, for instance, that they have with other people. And then you can take it to the next stage. You could perhaps post a comment on a website, a blog. You could like a few things on the Twitter chat. And you gradually build it up in layers until you feel confident enough to take it to a next step. And we've got a number of people who are regulars on the Twitter chat. And I have Zoom chats with two of them. I'm going to have a Zoom chat with a third one in the future. But it's taken a bit of time to build that relationship. And Brandi and I were actually talking about this only the other day. We said that sometimes there is a feeling that simply because somebody else is childless not by choice, they are going to be, if you like, a good match. And that's not always the case. We open up gradually to other people, and we should open up gradually to people within the CNBC community as well, just to sort of protect yourself. And that's not in a nasty way, because there are nasty people out there. It's just that people are feeling vulnerable, and you do need to protect yourself slightly. So my advice would be to do it gradually, reach out to a few people. Anybody who comments on my website, I comment back, and so does Brandi. And Brandi and I are both always open to taking the relationship that one step further if somebody wants to arrange a Zoom call or something.
Absolutely. It's a bit like these webinars, isn't it? I imagine there are some people, when they first join the webinars, they don't ask questions because they just want to just take it in and be there, and that's perfectly acceptable. But as time goes on, they may want to ask questions and feel more involved. But it does. You're right. You need to feel part of something before you feel ready to communicate much more and take much more of a part in it. So yeah, I totally agree. Now there's another question that is especially for Brandi. How do you avoid bitterness when grieving, especially when your family was blessed with a child, but it wasn't you that was blessed with the child within your family?
The way that I avoided the bitterness was by finding good things. I found myself being very negative, and so I went to a teacher and asked her. I thought I wasn't connecting with my students. I asked her for some strategies, and she told me about good things, and we started sharing a good thing in class every Monday, and I challenged myself to share good things with my students, and that was a turning point for me, and it changed my perspective. And sometimes the good thing was we had fajitas on Friday night for dinner, and that is the only good thing I could think of. But it just grew from there. One little good thing turned into more. And so that's what I'm trying to do now that I'm grieving Jennifer as well. Just whatever it is, find that one thing. Go have a chocolate shake. Just find the one good thing that you can cling to.
Absolutely. Positivity builds positivity, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And a great little exercise that people can do to build on that is there are 7 days of the week. There are 7 colours of the rainbow. However, please don't ask me to recite the poem because I can never get it right. And basically what you do is you give each day of the week a colour, and you look for things which make you happy, which are that colour during that day. And you take photographs of them and you put them on your Facebook page, or you have them on your laptop or something, just to give yourself a focus on you are specifically looking for yellow things which make you smile today. And it's enough just to change your mindset just a tiny little bit to start looking outside into the world of things that you can be grateful for, rather than always internalizing it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Ladies, I think that's all we have time for tonight, or we are going to